If you would, everybody, good morning. Please go ahead and take your seats.
Our committees have been busy.
Good morning. Everybody come in and have a seat. We'll get started. Going to ask Chairman Jaspers to open us with a word of prayer.
Thank you. All bow our heads together, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Please bless us. Please cover us with your guidance. Give us your forgiveness. Let us share your wisdom in all the things we do today and help keep us safe. And we bless this meeting to your name and our service to you to this day. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we've got some friends we want to hear from them this morning, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Come on up. Thank you, Senator.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Shelley Eccles from the 49th. My bill is $3.99. It's midway down page 2. The bill is a workforce development bill. It encourages the Commissioner of the TCSG and the Chancellor of the USG to coordinate their efforts to expand credit transfer opportunities between the two systems. It requires the Commissioner and the Chancellor to produce a report every other year to the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Speaker of the House of their coordination, and it also gives the Commissioner the power to certify prior to the start of each semester all courses that have been approved by the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia to be transferable to units of the university system, and to identify the bachelor's programs for which each course has been approved by the board to be a degree prerequisite. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you. Don't see any questions, Senator Evans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hello, members of the committee. I am State Senator Nabila Islam Parks from Senate District 7. I am presenting Senate Bill 451. It is on the second page at the bottom. This bill addresses the urgent need to protect our military service members from predatory lending practices by pawnbrokers and title loan providers by allowing the state to fine lenders who violate the Military Lending Act. So this bill helps ensure that our veterans are not financially exploited upon their when they return to civilian life.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Kim Jackson, representing District 41 in the State Senate. My bill number here is SB 324. It's at the bottom of the front page. And this bill does two things. One, it cleans up some issues that we had with the dating TPO. It just provides some teeth to it. Right now, this great body has approved a TPO, a temporary protective order for people who are victims of dating. But we just missed the code where we added it so that there would be some penalties if you actually break the TPO. And the second thing is it creates a program called an address confidentiality program so that people who are victims or survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking can have, working with the Secretary of State, can have their address protected so that it's not listed in public records. Happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you, ma'am. Don't see any questions. Thank you very much. Senator, come on up here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I have on page 2, up at the top, third one down, Senate Bill 358, State Election Board. This description in your blue sheet is not what that bill is. It's actually a revision of the ethics bill. That's a department bill. Synchronized reporting for election and non-election years, and gives 15-day grace period rather than 5 days. And that is a department bill for the Ethics Commission. The second bill I had on page 2 was Senate Bill 385.
Are there any questions on Senate Bill 358? Do have a question for you. Leader Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this bill closely related to HB 121112?
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay.
But this is something that came from the ethics department, and it was a bill that was put in committee. You should have a copy maybe in your book, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so the Secretary of State will provide oversight and confirm the Secretary of State's, is this the same?
Nothing,
Okay.
all of that
Okay.
stripped out, yes, sir.
Okay.
This is a department bill that came forward from Director Amaldi, and what it did is, instead of reporting 6 times a year, you would report 4 times a year every quarter. And it synchronized the non-election year and election year. So it's, I would have thought you had a copy. I apologize if you don't. I'd be glad to get you more information.
Have another question, Chairman Martin. Wait a minute.
Senator Williams, if you yield for a question, just looking at the bill this morning, on election years, you're moving the last reporting period prior to an election up 10 days from October 25th to the 15th. Am I to assume then that the 2-day report would then kick in at day 16 now instead of day 26?
I believe you're right, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions on that. How about your other bill?
It's Senate Bill 385. This is Lieutenant Governor's part of his Veterans Package Bill. This allows Georgia Military College in Milledgeville to add 9 additional BS degrees. They only offer, I think, 1 right now. But this is online only, and this is for the veteran and the spouse, that they would be able to continue on rather than stopping, that they can continue on those 9 degrees.
Okay. Do have a question. Leader Beverly?
Yes, is this pilot program, it's going to be facilitated by Technical College System for private nonprofits. Will there be an opportunity for other folk outside of the private nonprofit sector that's associated with technical schools to provide these services as well?
I don't know, this is particular to just Georgia
okay.
Military College.
Thank you very much.
Don't see any other questions.
Thank you very
Senator.
much. Thank you for your
Senator Alvarez.
consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the committee. On page 2, the very top of the page, is Senate Bill 328. These are updates to the Police Officer Annuity and Benefit Fund. This makes a couple of clerical changes in cleaning up the code. It also allows for an increased death benefit as well as increased contributions for the members. This is not a state-funded plan. This is one that's funded by the members. And also allows folks that remove themselves from the plan to get all the money back that they put into the plan.
Okay.
I've got
Don't
one
see
more,
any-
sir?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. On page 3 again, top of the page, Senate Bill 472, which I brought to you before, which is combating organized retail crime. This is to close a loophole to make sure we're protecting our retailers from criminal street gangs and other folks doing nefarious acts.
Okay. Don't see any questions.
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Senator Hickman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Two bills. These are also workforce development bills, and it's Senate Bill 384, which makes Georgia as a model employer for hiring people with disabilities. As we said before, there's about 150,000 people in the state of Georgia that have some type of physical or mental disability that are very capable of working, and we've only got about 30,000 of them working. So we have to, as any company does, and Georgia is a big company, is we got to start at the top. So this would make Georgia, the state of Georgia, a model employer, and this would be monitored by the American Disability Act, the person.
Okay. Don't see any questions on that one. You got another one?
Thank you, sir. The next bill is Senate Bill 497, which is expand our apprenticeship program, which is monitored by TCSG. I had several questions outside in the hall last week, and I think the most intriguing thing about this bill is currently the apprenticeship bill only applies to private companies, and this will then expand this apprenticeship bill to also include city and county governments.
Okay, don't see any questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I bring you Senate Bill 493, which is on the third page, 493. What this bill does is it kind of addresses how technology has outpaced our criminal code. It prevents and puts some guardrails on registered sex offenders from owning and operating drones to take pictures of children and women. It's had bipartisan support coming out of the Senate and passed 53-1.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, also, I presented this last week, but Senate Bill 515, which is also on the third page, which is the pilot EMS program.
Okay. No questions on that either. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Senator?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 112. It's also known as the High School Diploma for Adult Learning Act. Basically, this bill is creating a new pathway for adults to receive a high school diploma in Georgia. With that, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Don't see any, Senator Arbitrary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring to you today Senate Bill 465, otherwise known as Austin's Law. It's the Lieutenant Governor's bill. It creates a new class or crime called aggravated involuntary manslaughter when someone manufactures or sells fentanyl that results in the death of another human being. This bill passed out of the Senate with only 3 no votes. We had 2 committee hearings in Senate Judiciary. It passed out unanimously. Worked with Whip Burchett, made some changes to the bill. Had 2 hearings in Civil Non-Judiciary, and so anyway, bring it to you today, and be glad to take any questions.
Okay, we do have a question. Chair Lady Cooper.
Thank you very much. Senator, one of the questions that we had and very serious concerns was that this might interfere with the 911 amnesty bill. And I know that we had proposed some amendments. Did they make it in to make sure we protect that law?
This bill isn't going to affect the 911 amnesty. From all the attorneys I've spoken to, working with Whip Burchett, it's not going to affect it. You know that we have 106,000 people last year died from drug overdoses, and over 70% of them were attributed to fentanyl.
I understand that, sir, but before this, the 911 amnesty bill went in, we had people abandoning their friends, not people selling it, and letting them die, and then doing things like dumping them on their mother's yard. And some of the prosecutors from both North and South in our state had serious concerns about it.
When we came into the committee sub that I worked on with Whip Burchett, took out the delivery and distribution language. This only for the sale and manufacture. Okay,
but what would happen if, there was a fraternity party and somebody had a car and one of the brothers said, "Oh, you pick up the drugs and we'll give you some money back for it when you come back." That could be selling it if they were just paying them back for what they picked up. I mean, I know it's just that they've saved so many lives with the 911 bill. I'm all for what you're trying to do, basically.
From all the attorneys that I have spoken to, this bill will not affect the amnesty. What it's looking to do is just to address the fentanyl epidemic that's raging across the country. But from every attorney that I've spoken to, it will not address, it will not affect the amnesty for calling 911.
Thank you.
Leader Ifstration has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Goodman, isn't it true that under the felony murder statute, in order to charge murder because someone in the commission of a felony caused a death, that there's some very high hurdles to meet, including showing that the underlying felony was inherently dangerous, that it was foreseeable that a death would occur, things like that?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that part of the issue, and you bring in your bill, is if a drug dealer putting poison on our streets puts fentanyl in these drugs, the person using those drugs can die? This is a problem we're having across the state right now, but that prosecutors have an obstacle to actually charging the drug dealer for the death that was caused under those circumstances?
Yes, that's
Isn't it true that the House whip, working with you, was able to narrowly tailor a substitute that resulted in favorable testimony in the Judiciary Non-Civil Subcommittee for this draft?
Yes, sir, that is very true, and this bill is tailored to fentanyl.
And isn't it finally true that Representative McCullum has a very important bill that would make it illegal to have a pill press if you don't have a legitimate reason for it, and that's going to save lives of Georgians if your legislation is passed?
I believe it to be true, yes, sir.
Thank you. Good bill.
Thank you.
Chair Lady Cooper, you had another question?
Thank you, Majority Leader, for saying that. I just want you to know, I've been working on this long before you came into preventing deaths from overdose. So I'm with you about the fentanyl, and I know how bad it is. However, I'm just concerned that some prosecutor will decide to charge somebody, and once that gets out on college campuses and all, a kid will say when somebody's in trouble, oh no, and we can't stay with this person because we've been doing drugs too, and we might get charged, and then we won't be able to get medical school or dental school or law school because they were charged. I just have concerns, sir. I know where you're going. I just am very protective of a law that has saved thousands and thousands of lives in the last 10 years.
Yes, ma'am, and again, I thank you for that. I can only say I'm not an attorney, but every attorney that I've spoken to in this building has told me that it will not affect it.
Good. Don't see any other questions.
All right,
you.
thank you.
Chairman Bond.
Hey, good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Present House Resolution 1419. This is still on the general calendar on page 5, but this simply creates a House Study Committee to take a look at the backlog of VA benefit claims to determine how the state of Georgia can help move these along.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir. Senator Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I have 3 very non-controversial pieces of legislation on here today. SB 64, the first one under modified structure rule, is a birth certificate bill that gives adopted adults the same rights as those of us who remained with our biological families throughout our childhood. SB 424 is a West Georgia Judicial Circuit split that myself and Representative Vance Smith have been working on with everybody in all the counties over in Coweta, Troop, and throughout our districts. Passed out of committee unanimously. In SB 437, I apologize. I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
Chair Lady Smith, you have a question?
To the bill's author, I want to thank you and all the delegation for making this effort and making this possible. I know it was difficult to arrive at, but I commend you for your effort.
Well, yes, ma'am, and I want to thank the entire delegation. Those of us under this building work so well together, and to be able to work with all those parties within the counties, I know yourself and Representative Smith and others, it was a very, very tender process, and I can't thank you enough for all your help.
Okay. What, you had another one?
Yes, sir. SB 437. What this does is this is a bill that would require individuals to be 21 years of age to purchase hemp products. It would require independent testing of hemp products that are being sold in convenience stores throughout the state of Georgia, and would also increase the ability of the Department of Agriculture to go in, seize, and destroy illegal hemp products that are being sold in these areas throughout the state of Georgia.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I've got 2 bills on your blue sheet. They're both on the second page. The first one is the 8th bill down, SB 395. And what this bill simply does is it makes it more readily available to have opioid anti-agents available in schools. Currently right now, only the school nurse can possess and administer it. This would allow teachers, administrators, and visitors to do the same.
Okay. Don't see any questions on that. What's your next one?
The next bill is it's the third from the bottom, SB 464. What this bill does, it currently, since 2021, the state DOE has been giving teachers school supply money, $200 per teacher, with COVID relief money for their classroom, so they can have for classroom materials. Currently, teachers spend anywhere from $400 to $600 a year. This bill codifies that program. The federal money is running out, but this bill would codify that, but it would be subject to appropriation. So we have not appropriated any money for that. And there was also a substitute to this bill dealing with our literacy council. It would allow for 5 free screeners throughout the state, and that would start, as far as literacy screeners, and that would start in the fall of 2025.
Okay. Don't see any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am not on the blue sheet, but I'm on page 6 of the yellow sheet. I bring before you Senate Bill 132, and basically what this does, this bill prohibits our foreign adversaries from buying our farmland or any land within 10 miles of a military base. The U.S. Secretary of Commerce has 6 countries that are on their list of particular concern: Communist China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela. And I will just tell you, the Communist Chinese Party is buying up farmland in our country at a rapid rate, and we need to protect our agriculture land here in the state of Georgia and make sure that we keep our farmland in the hands of Georgians. I'll answer any questions.
Got a couple of questions. Leader Whip Park has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Beach, I know we've discussed this bill a few times now. Have you been able to provide any written documentation or studies as to the extent of this problem that would create a new felony here in Georgia?
Yeah, let me say this, that right now, Communist China, this has nothing to do with Chinese Americans, and we've worked with the realtors. You can buy houses here, and it does not dictate residential property. Right now, the Communist Chinese Party owns 90% of Smithfield Pork. Right here today. They're buying up farmland at an alarming rate. They just bought land next to a military base in North Dakota, one of our ballistic missile sites. That should concern all of us from a national security standpoint. So we need to make sure we pass this so that they do not buy our farmland.
Again, I think, it's very important, especially for House members, to be legislating based on facts, not simply rhetoric. And so to the extent that that documentation could be provided as to the extent of the problem here in Georgia would be very helpful, particularly in light of the fact that, 1, this creates a brand new felony, 2, that this potentially raises the potential harm of discrimination against Asian Americans and immigrant communities, and 3, because my understanding is that that the bill remains constitutionally suspect on multiple grounds.
Well, it is constitutional. You can go back to the Logan Act of 1799, so it does pass constitutional muster.
Okay, we have another question. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. There were 2 countries you named. I'm just curious, Venezuela and Cuba. Last time I checked, they didn't have enough money to pay attention.
Well, really, I'll be honest with you. This bill really is focusing on Communist China. They just bought 100,000 acres out in Napa Valley. They're buying up farmland as fast as they can. They want to control our technology. They want to control our food supply, and that should concern all of us.
Okay, we have another question. Pro Tem Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Beach, is it true that you worked the language so that it does not conflict with the Fair Housing?
Right, it does. And I want to thank Chairman Perkle. I don't know if he's here today, but we worked real hard on this, and Chairman Dickey and his committee, and we really worked on this to make sure, and on line, I believe it's on line 27, this provision of, shall not be in conflict with the Federal Fair Housing Act, lines 27 and line 28 of the bill. So we worked hard on that to make sure it does not affect residential property.
Good, thank you. We have one more question, Chairman Gunner.
This is very similar to a bill I have from Senator Anna Vitarte, is that correct?
Correct.
What are the differences between the two? Because I'm getting ready to have a hearing on that tomorrow.
There is very little difference. I've been working on this issue for about 2.5 years.
Okay. Well, I'll
thank you.
Talk to you about it later.
All right.
Thank you, Senator. Don't see any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Leader Gooch.
Good morning, committee. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you again, asking for the Senate Bill 507. It's on page 1 there, about halfway down your list in the modified open rules section. This is a simple license plate bill. As we discussed last week, it will look similar to what I'm holding here in my hand. It will be labeled America First at the bottom. It'll have the American flag across the entire plate. So, happy to take any questions. Ask for your consideration to put this on the floor of the House, and let's get it passed.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you. Senator, is it not true that this bill has become so popular that you've had a problem keeping the big poster of it under your control?
I'm glad you asked that question, Representative. We thought we had theft amongst our members, and so we were thinking about asking you guys to draw up articles of impeachment against one of our own, but he has repented, asked for forgiveness, and if the Lord will forgive him, then maybe we should as well. So,
Is it not true that the security cameras in this building caught the gentleman red-handed?
I would advise everyone to be real careful walking around the halls picking up things that don't belong to you, because people are watching. The government is watching us every day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We got a couple other questions. Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the gentleman. In this bill, did you all waive the requirement, the normal requirement that you have to have 1,000 persons or 1,000 applications before it can become effective? And if so, why is that necessary?
I think what we did, Representatives, we used similar language that's been used by this chamber in many instances, which will be on line 18 through 22. It says, notwithstanding subsection B or H of this code section, the department shall be authorized to issue such license plate prior to receipt of 1,000 prepaid applications, provided, however, that if 1,000 applications have not been submitted prior to January 1st of 2027, the department shall not continue to manufacture such plate. The funds raised by the sale of this plate shall be deposited into the general fund. So that gives the protection and the guardrails that if the demand for this plate is not satisfactory, then they would not move forward with it. But all the funding would go to the general fund, which is it's not unusual either. We've done that in many cases. Primarily, other license plates, as you know, have dedicated revenues to other sources. All of this money comes back to the state treasury.
Chair Hawkins has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a good idea. Can I ask you who thought of this?
It would be yours truly. But,
well, I'm impressed. Thank you.
There were other ideas tossed around, but as you know, Okefenokee and veterans bills, everybody has an idea. You get an idea from time to time from a constituent. But no, I think in a serious note, this is a time for our country to unify and come together and really show our patriotism to our country and to honor our troops and those who have dedicated their lives and sacrificed their lives themselves. I think this is a very appropriate piece for moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Representative.
Okay, Whip Park has a question for you.
I'll waive.
Waive? Okay. No other questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good day.
Good, thank you. Any members of the committee have anything you want to bring up for us today? You don't see any? Well, excuse me, I couldn't see you there. Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Senator Estevez and Chairman Wiedauer, I would like to mention again Senate Bill 469. This takes the hard cap off our 529 plans in Georgia and also increases the amount that is deductible against income tax for those people that are saving for college. It's good for our students.
Okay. No questions on that. Anybody? Okay. Chairman Powell has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Request.
Maybe a little premature, but I'd like to ask for H.R. 1283. It's a study committee
for safety and consumer protection of nicotine vape products. Back a few weeks ago, one of our distinguished members from Clark County brought a bill forward about licensing issue of registering the vape products and such. We don't have a clue where that's going. It might be a little bit complicated for the Senate, since the majority leader, the best he can do is a prestige tag. But in this particular case, it might be to the benefit that we actually look at the broader picture of vape products.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Hawkins, you have something?
Yeah, I would like to put my name next to Senate Bill 307. This is a bill that addresses the prior approval issues that we're having for our patients, so to increase access and decrease the time that they have to wait for treatment.
Okay. Dean Green, you have a request?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Placing my name by Senate Bill 212, this is our probate judge's bill, and then on the Senate Bill 328 at the top of page 2.
Okay. Got that. Thank you. Chairlady Smith, you have one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not asking to put my name by anything because you said we didn't need to, but I would like to emphasize, is it not true, that it's very important to the Coweta County Judicial Association that this bill get a favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Chairman Powell, did you forget something?
But my name is add SB 328, Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit.
Let the record reflect we're putting everybody's name by everything. How about that? Okay? All right. Good. Anything else? Okay. All right. Before we move on to a calendar, we've got some special guests in the room with us today. I'd like to recognize, there's a young man back there, Andrew Blitchington. Andrew's going to be paging for me back there, so y'all be nice to him today when he comes around. And his mom and dad are here, Billy and Katie, and they are constituents of Speaker Burns. But he's going to page for me today, so we'll have him in there. We're glad to have y'all, and thank y'all for coming and visiting with us this morning. Okay, we've got a little bit of housekeeping we need to do. We want to recommit to Judy Senate Bill 433. 433 back to Judy. Do I hear a motion? Move. Have a move and a second. Is there any opposition? Okay, it's back. Now, we have already set a calendar for today, and I think we've got 14 or 15 on there for today. But I'd like for us to now set a supplemental calendar for today, day 36. And under modified structure, Senate Bill 362. 362. We have a move and a second. Is there any opposition? We have an objection. All those in favor of placing it on, raise your hand. All those opposed? It's on. Okay, and then I'd like to recognize the Vice Chair for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that pursuant to Rule 33.3 that all measures be debate on all measures be limited to 1 hour, time to be divided to the discretion of the chair.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's on. Okay, or it passes. We, at this moment, do not have a meeting planned for tomorrow. To remind you, tomorrow's committee day, but just watch your emails. We'll probably have another meeting before we convene for Wednesday, which will be the next legislative day. Thank you all for being here. Meeting's adjourned.